Welcome to the May Make Bread 365 Challenge recipe video. This one's gonna be a bit different because this month is artisan bread, but we're gonna kind of put a twist on that this month. Hey y'all, welcome back to Grains and Grit. My name is Felicia, and on this channel, we talk all things real whole grains from a biblical perspective. So I'm just quickly putting an intro and outro here because this recipe I am recording while I'm baking it for my family for supper that night. So things have been a bit crazy around here lately, so forgive the not so fancy intro. But this month is artisan bread, and I was kind of trying to get a sourdough bread out for y'all, but that was not working with 100% freshly milled wheat. I still have not gotten it to where I'm comfortable sharing a video about it. So that is coming hopefully this month, maybe next month. But in the meantime, I did kind of find a hack cheater style artisan bread that actually includes a recipe that you already have, and that is using my simple yeast bread loaf recipe. So before I get all the hater comments like, this isn't artisan bread. Okay, so I actually did some research about what artisan bread is. And basically, if you do a quick Google search, the basic definition of artisan bread is handmade bread made in small batches. But the Le Cordon Bleu from France, their definition of it is generally made by hand using longer and more traditional processes. So this is definitely where we get sourdough. We associate sourdough with artisan bread, which is totally legit. And I agree. And I do think that true artisan bread does require like the longer fermenting times, things like that. But you know what? I haven't figured that out yet with 100% freshly milled wheat, because you can get that with white flour. You can get that with half and half. Way difficult and a whole different ball of wax when it comes to 100% freshly milled wheat. So I actually discovered kind of a hack, where I get the look of the artisan bread, that crunchy crust. It does not have the big gaping holes in the middle, but bottom line, it is a delicious bread that looks really great. And bonus points, you can eat this straight out of the oven. Yes, you can serve a hot loaf style type bread on the table for supper, piping hot, and it is amazing. Pretty much the best thing ever. So it used to be where only my rolls I would serve hot, because my sandwich breads you don't want to slice because it'll actually cause them to fall. Not this bread, y'all. So you get the crunchy crust, but the soft middle, you can just rip it apart. This is what we do. We just have people break off pieces for supper, and it is wonderful and just something new and different than just here's my sliced bread from sandwiches or my rolls that I do a lot as well. Now, one thing how this is an artisan bread, and basically everything we do here, I would say it's classified as artisan type bread because we are using 100% freshly milled wheat, which, let's face it, y'all, that's old school to be milling your own wheat. So we're already doing old school methods, even though this one does have commercial yeast in it. But basically it's just my simple yeast bread loaf recipe, but we're going to twist it up a bit. I'm going to show you how it's done. Now, another thing I would like to introduce in this video is a different type of wheat that I'm using. This is the first time that I'm using a heritage wheat, it's a turkey red winter wheat that I got from Guardian Grains. I highly recommend them. They are excellent grains, and they have great quality, and they ship straight to your house, and their prices are reasonable as well. And definitely a small company that you're working with. This is not sponsored or anything, but they did send me these grains so I could experiment with. And I have to say, I'm quite pleased with the turkey red. I find that it works a lot like hard red wheat. Still a really great flavor, and that's what we're using for this recipe. I do have a discount code for you guys for Guardian Grains. I think it's 15% off, which is amazing. And again, the grains are shipped straight to your house. So be sure to check out the description box the description link in the box below, you know what I mean, to be able to get that discount as well. So thanks for Guardian Grains for doing these heritage type wheats. Again, first time using turkey red, and it turned out really well. Okay, so on to the recipe. All right, you know the drill. We just first add 3 cups of our freshly milled turkey red wheat. We add 2 1/4 tablespoons of yeast, 3 3/4 cups of warm water, mix it together, let it sit until nice and bubbly for about 15 minutes. And it's nice and bubbly. Remove the lid if you're using the Bosch, and then we add our 1/2 cup of oil, 1/2 cup of honey, 3 1/4 teaspoons of salt, And then we just slowly start adding our flour. I like to add an additional 5 cups of flour roughly, basically, and then start mixing and then slowly add in flour until I see that it's starting to pull off the sides of the bowl. And then we start our kneading. So as you can see, here it is, it's starting to pull off the sides of the bowl. And this is whenever I start my timer for kneading. This is the Bosch Universal Mixer, and I'm just gonna knead for 9 minutes. And then here's the dough. It is a bit sticky and tacky. People ask me about this all the time. This is how I like it coming out of the mixer, where it's still a bit tacky. And then I lightly flour my surface, dump out my dough. And then from here, I just like to lightly flour my hands as necessary and just start kind of working this dough a little bit more where it's not as tacky. And this is how I find to make it not as dense, making sure I'm not adding too much flour. And you can see it's still a little bit tacky. That's fine. And then now I just divide up the dough into 3 pieces, and I do weigh it for this particular recipe. I do weigh it to try and get even amounts. And each one came out to be about 1 pound, 12 ounces. And then here's my Banneton basket. I just really flour it. The Banneton basket is what gives it those nice lines. You can use a clean towel in a bowl as well. And then here I just kind of fold it. We're just going to be making it into a little ball. The key that I found is you really want to make sure you flour your surface well with whatever you're putting it in, because you don't want that bread to stick. And then once I kind of have it tucked in, you can see I'm slightly tucking it in, have it a nice tight little ball, flip it upside down into the Banneton basket, and then I just cover it up and let it rise until it's about double in size. And just while for your entertainment, here I am shaping the other loaves into just normal loaves. So I'm kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone here. And while I shape these other loaves, for those who may be confused, this recipe is just my simple yeast bread loaf recipe. It's on my website, and it's kind of the dough to rule them all. You can do so many things with this. Hence why out of the same dough, I'm making just regular sandwich loaves as well, which I'm doing here. So that's why I like to go ahead and make them in these larger batches. You can cut this recipe in half if you need less, but this is how I like it so far. And then I just cover these up, let these rise as well. And here, this one is already risen. You get some parchment paper. I like putting a plate on top to make sure I don't destroy the dough. Flip it over, and this is the moment of truth to make sure you flour that bowl really well, because when you lift it up, this is what you want it to look like. And then we just score it however we want. My razor blade, unfortunately, was not as sharp as I was wanting, so make sure you have a sharp blade to score it in whatever pattern you're wanting to do. And while this was going, I was preheating my oven to 425 degrees with the Dutch oven in it. So this is a hot Dutch oven. We're going to place the bread in there, put it in there, bake for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we remove the lid to bake it another about 8 to 10 minutes. And then here it is. And then you can just use a thermometer to make sure the bread is 190 degrees. But look at it. It is beautiful. It has a crunchy crust. And here we get more close-ups. I could have had better scoring. I need to work on that. But bottom line, here it is. And like I said, you can just rip this bread, tear it apart, but I'm being fancy and slicing it so you can see the inside. No, not the big holes that you get from typical sourdough breads. But hey, it's delicious. So there you have it, y'all. Unfortunately, I do not have a loaf to show you here because it's always devoured at supper, and I have no leftovers. So again, whenever I was recording this video, it was to get it right straight to the table, and that's what it did, and we have nothing to show from it. So hopefully this was helpful for y'all. Do know again that you can vary the cook times length based on how crunchy you would like that crust to be. As always, I hope this video was helpful. Printable recipe in the description box below, and be sure to follow us along on our Make Bread 365 challenge on Instagram. It's great fun. We're having a lot of fun over there, and if you make this recipe, be sure to tag me in it and use that hashtag as well. So as always, hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next week.